Hello everyone, you're welcome to my channel. This is Health World View. It's good to be here. I just want to say thank you for joining me wherever you're joining me from. It's a wonderful day and I know you had a good day. Today I just want to talk about situation or what is going on out there. And I know it's something a lot of people want to know about. I will be buying the book tomorrow when it comes out. It's talking about Prince Harry. Prince Harry has released his memoir, which is mistakenly or being sold, I think it's in Spain. But anyway, all over the world, other countries will be tomorrow, Tuesday. So I hope you're going to get one so that when we talk about it, we could kind of just understand it together. But I'm going to buy it. I'm going to share almost every page of it or chapter of it for you that I feel is interesting for us to know. I have a video I want you to actually take a look at. On this video, Harry is kind of someone that had met with Harry before, shared some things that Harry shared with him, Prince Harry shared with her, some years ago. That shows that he's been having so much bottled in for the last God knows how many years, especially from the death of his mother. And his mother's death really had a great impact on his life because I believe that's where he got his affection from, which was not missing after her death. You see, we have a case where it's where the family turned against him and his family and his wife rather when after they got married, and that really bothered him. As you hear more of it, but anyway, the case of them for me, their trip to Australia kind of just knock it over because some media outlet or some people who had a platform that they can speak from felt that Meghan and Harry was becoming too popular, that Prince William and his wife, Kate, would be snubbed because of the way Meghan and Harry became popular. Yeah. So I think from that point on, some things changed when they came back from Australia. Some people have actually, compared it to, you should compare it with Diana. When Diana went to Australia, when she came back, things just so changed. So he's voicing that. I think this is the only way he feel he want to speak his heart. Perhaps by doing this, he will feel free. He will feel okay about what has been happening, or what he's not be happy with in the family. He wants a family, not institution. I think being acting 24/7 as an institution has an impact. Yeah, it's like someone that is doing business, at home you're doing business. You go to your place of business, for example, your firm or your company. You're all in. You come home with work. You can reach out to your family. You can be there for your family. The children will also grow up and not be happy. You might give them everything. They might have everything in the world, maybe even with fame, but guess what? They're not happy. Yeah. If you're doing a job or you're an entertainer, whatever you do, and then you've taken it way beyond normal, then you begin to affect the people that you love, the people around you. I think that's what I pick out of this. Harry is not too pleased because they never really received the affection that they really wanted or desired or needed. you know, because it's more institution 24/7. It feels like that to me. I saw a clip where the former butler to Diana was saying when Prince Charles then came to Paris where they had the accident, he kind of just touched him, I think, and he said, "Are you okay?" He said for him, what he wanted then was a hug. You see, so there are cases where Harry might need a hug. Harry might need a hug, and it was not there. Also, you find out that it's important for us to put the family first. You know, it doesn't matter what it is, because they're the one that love you. So we don't want to. So he's really, really hurt. I want you to listen to this video, and then let's chat after that as well. Yes.
We're going to talk about the sort of the allegations that have come out from Harry's book, Aisha. I mean, Susanna was talking about the fact that you met him in 2020, not long after this altercation happened between the two brothers. What were your impressions of him back then?
Well, I mean, obviously I can't go into the actual specifics of what we talked about, but he definitely was very hurt. He was very angry with what had happened. A lot of the stuff that is coming out now, what he said in the Oprah Winfrey interview, what he said in the Netflix documentary, and what's coming out in his book, he definitely alluded to quite a lot of that when we had our conversation. And I got the impression of somebody who was...
Did that surprise you, Aisha? Because you just met for this event, you were introducing him, but he was quite unguarded about talking to you about very personal matters.
I think, to be fair, that's...
Not that I'm not saying you're very trustworthy.
Well,
but
you know me.
But as a journalist, as a journalist, somebody who's working...
I think it's partly because I think he had seen me be very supportive of him and Meghan Markle,
sure.
Indeed, on this programme, against a former presenter. I got the impression that he and Meghan Markle at this point were just very, very hurt about what was happening. There was no relish there. There was no sense of glee, or just a lot of kind of hurt, and I think quite bewildered at what was happening, partly because of the echoes of history in terms of what happened to his mother. And the impression I took away from this was that this was a young man who didn't want to be doing all of this stuff, was just quite, I think, bewildered by how the press had turned against him and his wife, how his family had turned against him and his wife. I just came away thinking, this is such a great shame. He's a really spirited, warm, interesting, open, lovely young man. What a loss to our country, and what a loss to the royal family.
We knew that there were tensions between the brothers. The fact that Prince Harry is alleging that there was a physical confrontation. I think he uses the word attack, that he says in that conversation that Prince William attacked him. Did you get the impression that their relationship had broken down that badly?
I definitely got the impression that things had really soured between them, but I had no indication of anything of this nature, anything physical. But when you look at the sort of information that has come out from the Netflix documentary, I mean, my big takeaway from the Netflix documentary, the most interesting, newsworthy bit to me as a journalist and someone that follows this, was just the extent of the breakdown of the relationship between William and Harry. And now to have this additional piece of information, it does make you think, gosh, I don't think there is going to be a way back. I mean, I hope there is a way back for them, but it is going to be really difficult.
Let's remind ourselves what he has said to our very own Tom Bradby, because Prince Harry has done 2 on-the-record interviews to publicise the book Spare. One is with CBS's Anderson Cooper, and one is with ITV's Tom Bradby, who is very close to Prince Harry and has known him for, I think, 2 decades. This is what he will say to, what has said to him, and this is an interview which will go out on Sunday.
It never needed to be this way. The leaking and the planting. I want a family, not an institution. If they feel as though it's better to keep us somehow as the villains, they've shown absolutely no willingness to reconcile. I would like to get my father back. I would like to have my brother back.
Ed Vaizey, it's hard to see how after the allegations which are clearly in a book, which is going to be there for eternity,
yes.
that he's going to be able to get his brother back at the very
Yeah,
least.
I mean, he's written about intimate family events and encounters. I mean, I think if you write a book that's going to be read by millions or billions and covered on every media outlet going about your brother having a physical confrontation with you and injuring you with a dog bowl, he fell on the dog bowl and hurt his back, then it's very hard to see how on earth William can reconcile. But we've been talking about this for a while, about how on earth you come back. How can you sit down as a family when one member, and I'm not apportioning blame here, it's just a fact, one member has gone very, very public with the most intimate details, because the other bit in the story that I read was obviously him revealing that Prince Charles at the Duke of Edinburgh's funeral had said, boys, don't make my final years a misery. So if that's just a taster of what is going to be in Spare, of the kind of private conversations, and all of us expect, certainly when we talk to our family, but when we talk to our friends, we certainly do not expect what we say in an unguarded moment, or indeed how we might behave in an unguarded moment, in the privacy of our family relationships or good friend relationships, to suddenly be...
But also, a lot of our viewers just getting in touch saying, all brothers fight, all siblings fight.
Yeah.
I fought with my brother, but the last thing you want is if you want it to be put into a book and everybody to read about it, because it just feels... It feels like, as Aisha was talking about, the documentaries that we've had, the interviews that they've done, now this book, he needs to find more salacious, damaging sort of elements to this story that we haven't had yet, that's going to keep that interest, that's going to
I mean, it's
drive
a bit.
the views.
Families fight, and we will say things to our siblings, even at our advanced age, that we would never say to other people, and so that's not. I don't think people are saying, this is it is a dysfunctional family in many ways, but it's not something that's not we haven't experienced. I think that the balance between, is this kind of some form of therapy for Prince Harry in terms of getting it all out there in a book, and is it a cynical media ploy that you keep the brand, as it were, in front of the public? It's a bit of both, it seems.
I think I've got a slightly different view on that. I think the nature of their family is very, very different from our families. And the fact that a lot of these stories were not just, look, you can have a view of the press that the press just make everything up. That's not quite true. There is a source for a lot of these stories. His allegation is that quite a lot of these stories were coming from within the palace, and the palace wasn't doing enough to close this down, and maybe some of it had been coming from, his brother's end of the family. There's a whole issue about they were sharing a press secretary at one point, and things got really messy. The difference between their existence and our existence is we can have a right old bust up with our, brothers, sisters, whatever. It's not going to materially affect, you're not going to see that in, the front page. It's not going to materially affect how the country sees you. And I think what was difficult, particularly for Meghan and Harry at that time, was just the fact that you had this sudden kind of like turnaround in how the press was treating them, in terms of what was coming out of the palace, different courtiers, different advisors. And there was an agenda there from somebody. I don't know who that person was, but there was definitely an agenda. And so I think that's what makes this situation much more difficult.
Yeah, but I mean, to a certain point, first of all, Harry has put this stuff out there now. So to a certain extent, the criticism that he makes of the press, he is now guilty of the same things. And this fight was never revealed by the press. And in terms of Meghan, I'm a big supporter of Meghan, and I agree with you that Harry and Meghan are a massive loss to the royal family. There is no doubt that, as it were, the court was pretty hostile to Meghan and briefing the press. But whether that was just people letting off steam sounds a bit weird, but just exasperated with how they perceived her behaviour towards them, or whether it was a kind of cynical ploy to undermine Meghan, I'm not sure.
It's really interesting.
I think that's probably where we have a sort of disagreement. It's a bit. I think the court in the palace is not dissimilar from special advisors and advisors.
That's a very good. I think that's a very good.
And often special advisors can go off and brief, but it's often done with either an explicit or a tacit nod from the top person.
It's really interesting you talk about those sources and the press narrative, because in the leak of the details of this book to The Guardian, and here we have The Guardian front page this morning online, Harry writes that William had come to Nottingham Cottage to talk about the whole rolling catastrophe of their relationship and struggles with the press. Harry says that when William arrived in the grounds, Harry says he was already piping hot. William complained about Meghan, Harry writes. Harry told William he was repeating the press narrative and that he expected better. But William, Harry says, was not being rational, leading to the two men shouting over each other. Harry then accused his brother of acting like an heir, unable to understand why his younger brother was not content to be a spare. Insults were exchanged before William claimed he was trying to help. Harry said, "Are you serious? Help me. Sorry, is that what you call this? Helping me?" And then the altercation follows. But it's so interesting that Harry accuses William in a fight of following the press narrative.
And it's kind of chicken and egg, which comes first. I mean, we all know a lot of royal correspondents, and they're pretty adamant. I don't think they come with they came with a pre-baked anti-Meghan agenda. They are, as it were, reporting, and their intel is that the courtiers felt that the people who worked in their offices felt that she didn't treat them well, whether that's fair or not. And that's kind of what they reported. The interesting other part about that narrative is also the kind of Harry's problem with being a spare. I mean, the trouble with this, with Harry and Meghan going forward, if things had been right, was that, a bit like Diana and Charles, was that I suspect Harry and Meghan would have eclipsed William and Kate because they're sort of more, they have more freedom and flexibility and charisma, I think, as a couple. So that would have been a problem. But it's interesting that Harry felt he couldn't carve out. I mean, Prince Charles had to exist effectively as the heir for 70 years, and I think carved out a brilliant role for himself. I can't see why Harry couldn't have done that.
The Guardian says in the book, Harry recounts the story of how his father supposedly said to Princess Diana on the day of Harry's birth, "Wonderful, now you've given me an heir and a spare.
Yeah, but that's
my work is done."
That's a bit of a royal cliche.
Yeah, I think there's two.
Well, it's a royal cliche, but for him to have allegedly said it to his wife on the day that Prince
and
Harry
Harry to
was
put
born.
it into the book that he's obviously heard that over the years from someone somewhere.
It may well have, one of those things, never a true word spoken in jest, one of those sort of things. I think there's two narratives going on here. There is the narrative of the spare, and that is a really interesting concept. Like, there's a lot of stuff.
And of course, it's what he calls his book.
Yeah, and it's an insider phrase about the person who is sort of number two. And there's a lot of psychology behind that. And that's a wider thing with, I think, siblings do go through. I mean, you even have it in politics, don't you? The number two is often quite a troubled...
junior minister.
I will just look at what we... Look at the specimen that we have here. But I think that doesn't take away from the fact that, and I know lots of people will disagree with me, but there's a lot of people who will also agree with me, that when you look at the treatment, in my view and a lot of people's view, that Meghan Markle had with Harry when she entered the royal family, something went very, very, very off beam. And to Ed's point about royal reporters, again, there are royal reporters that, try their best to report on facts. Sometimes they get stories themselves. Sometimes stuff does get leaked. In the way the lobby, sometimes get stories leaked from government ministers and senior politicians.
Very rarely.
But we also have to be honest, there is a group of people within the media, commentators, columnists and senior editors, that absolutely had it in for Meghan Markle and crafted a narrative which many people of colour like myself found deeply, deeply uncomfortable.
Yes, I agree with that. But again, every tale has two sides to it. So William, reportedly, and it's got a strong air of truth, kind of said to Harry, look, Kate went through this. And you know as a journalist, we all know who kind of live in the media world, that the media follows fashions. So one day you're, as Piers Morgan would put it, cock of the walk, the next day you're the feather duster. One year you're absolutely nightmare, terrible thing, what a nightmare this person is. The next year you're absolutely fantastic, you're incredible, you're empathetic, you're the best thing that's ever happened.
No, I'm going to pick up on one thing there. I agree that all women that enter the royal family have a hard time. The way women are treated is horrible, from Sarah Ferguson, who was called the Duchess of Pork, to Diana. Everybody has had a hard time, and Camilla. But there is a specific way that Meghan was spoken about, which you cannot say is the same that Kate was spoken about. And that is not to say that Kate has not had a hard time in the press. I think we've got to be really careful about this. There's been lots of, evidence put forward. The way two stories were talked about. Kate, I love avocado as a snack. Meghan, I love avocado. You're a war criminal. I mean, some of it was so blatant. And you've got to ask yourself, what is the difference between Meghan Markle and Kate?
Lots of people getting in touch. I think the thing that everybody would love to see is them some sort of reconciliation. But
that looks more distant.
Yeah, absolutely. As Will Hill says, if Harry wanted to build bridges with his brother and his dad, I think he's ruined any chance of that happening after this. I don't think there's any way back. Norma says, I fully support Harry. The royal family clearly operates on a purely business terms with complete lack of compassion for its members who are going through extremely tough times.
And he says he wanted a family, not an institution.
So, I mean, you've heard for yourself some of the things that that has been discussed right now. With what we've heard, I mean, what is your own view? What do you think? Let me know. Give us a comment. Because the life that Harry has lived, has always been like he's behind. He's always not seen. As the brother always comes first. So that would have struck some hurt or pain or jealousy, or William could have been jealous of Harry because he was so loved. And on the poll in the UK, I think they said when he was like second to the Queen or so, when Meghan came in, they kind of just shoot off above everybody else. So that was a problem. That was going to be a problem anytime, any day, because they feel they overshadowed the one that is to be the king, the heir, to the throne. So all that was kind of all in the family, and being called a spare, oh, thank you. I mean, you've given me an heir and a spare. For somebody to tell him that, and he grew up knowing that's another thing completely. That's how I see it. I feel if they had treated Meghan differently, if they had accepted her lovingly, well in the family, and she was only dealing with the media, that would be a different thing completely. Okay, the media will attack me outside, but when I come home, I have a family to cry to, I have a family to connect to. It's important, very important, to separate business, institution, church from your family. We are special to God. We are first to God's heart. We always will be. That's how I say. So please leave us your own comment. I know that a lot of people love them. They really did love them until the media began to turn on them. I mean, you see different comparison when they talk about Meghan is different when they talk about, and that's somebody that he loved. I mean, he loves rather. And so consistent attack, and he knows the system. He grew up in the system. He knows the system. He knows what goes on in there that we don't know. He knows how the stories are leaked. He understands it. Because that's where he's always been. So for him to talk about that area is because he knows it very well. We don't know from the outside. We just know, something come up and say, well, that's from the royal family comment, whatever. That's what we move on. But he knows how it happened. So for him to say that Meghan was treated differently from Kate, that as well, maybe not just with the media, it's possible within the house, within the family. They treated her differently, and she wasn't going to completely accept that, because that's the person that he's married to. Lastly, what I want to say here is this: everyone don't handle situation the same. Harry could be what I say is like someone that is very, very sensitive. And he needs this cuddle, he needs this, let's talk about it, let's talk about it and resolve it, and then be happy again. So, but some people, they can just push it under the carpet, keep going. That's not for everybody. That's not for everybody. So I believe somehow God will just make a way. I pray that the King Charles will be able to resolve this for his family, be able to speak to both of them, or the two brothers can come together and really sit down, put the institution aside, and be brothers, and be able to talk heart to heart, how I feel, how you feel, and be able to resolve this. Somehow, Harry, this is the only way Harry would feel, okay, I've tried to talk to you guys indoors, but nobody's willing to listen, and you're leaking my story. Now I want to blow out all my story and let it be there. I don't care. I just want to say what I need to say because I'm hurting. Because he missed all the functions or family gathering that they have always had since he was a kid. So all those cousins and nephews and aunties, all of these people that he used to meet when they come together, special occasions, Christmas, whatever they do it together, he hasn't seen them for a long time. He hasn't been with them in such a way. And this brings me to this question. What do you think in all of this? We've not heard from Prince Anne. We've not heard from Prince Edward. We've not heard from Prince Andrew. We've not heard from none of those people. Or we haven't heard from him say, well, my auntie or my aunt reached out to me, or my uncle reached out to me. So that alone as well says a lot. It says a lot that they're not even reaching out to them. We've not heard that. Perhaps that's going to come out. Then that would be nice to hear. That the only people that has ever reached out to him or tried to resolve this situation or tried to mediate between me and my brother or my uncle, my dad, is my aunt, is my uncle, is this, we know when one of the cousin, I think is, was it a cousin? Oh, no way. One of the family, I think one of Andrew said, Andrew Sador, and it came into the US. We saw them. It was on their clip. The Netflix they just did. She was part of it. So I believe they would have said something. So what do you think? Not hearing anything from him regarding this family members or from the family members themselves? Do you think the way they always keep quiet is the best way to deal with a situation like this? Please don't forget to please subscribe, like, and share. We're going to be dealing with this for the next few weeks, reading through the book and sharing it. It's going to be interesting. And we know that we're going to learn a little bit more about our Prince Harry. And you have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful afternoon, evening, morning, wherever you're watching me from. Thank you, and you have a good day. Bye.